Hey guys, how's it going? We're back with another hand review, and today we are playing 2, 5, 10 straddle. So let's get into the hand. Of course, with ace queen offsuit, first position, easy raise as always, and 3 big blinds are way more than enough, because you always play the whole hand out of position, so no need to raise to 40, 50, or even 60 bucks. 25, 30, 35, maybe 40, but that's definitely the max, is way more than enough. And the whale in the small blind makes it 125, which is still a little bit concerning, because we open raised in under the gun, and even when you play against the whale, not a lot of 3-betting is going on. So I would expect the whale to flat a ton in the small blind, but the range he's going to threat is probably quite narrow. What do you think? What is a typical whale in a 2-5 or 2-5-10 game, usually 3-betting in the small blind against an under the gun open?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with you in general. They flat so often that, when they do put in three bets, I usually range them fairly strong. But I've also seen a lot of like random shit too, like low suited connectors, stuff like that. But in general, I would say definitely more merged and strong just because they just love to flat so often, right? And see flops. They're not necessarily always interested in putting in big three bets, especially against under the gun. Not that they're positionally aware, but still, yeah. So it gets back on us, and I think it's not.
Not
Yeah,
much we can do there.
it's yeah, it's like it's you just have to call. I think a hand like ace ten. If I raise ace ten offsuit under the gun, which is too loose, I think. But if we did, let's say that'd be pretty close. Probably still calling against a whale, but then it gets pretty close, right?
Yeah, with
So
those
but this
offsuit
spot with
hands, you put yourself in a super dicey flop spot post flop. So even with ace jack,
yeah,
when you don't know your opponent, I really don't mind folding. Unless you are aware that your opponent definitely has some issues post flop, then yeah, you can call all day long because you're so much better and you have position.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, we go two ways to the flop, and flop is semi good. 2-4-4 with two spades, and pot is 265. Always be aware of the pot size. So when you play live, please do count the chips. Take your time to know how many bucks are in the pot. This is super important when you try to find the perfect bet sizing. And it's quite easy. Just count them on every single street. Pre-flop, flop, turn, river. Easy game. And if not, try to have a good guess how many chips are in the pot. And Whale goes ahead and bets. So he bets 175 into 265. So quite a big bet. And I think on this board texture, it's fine. He should definitely don't bet too small, because otherwise we are not folding anything from our strong range. So half pot, maybe even a bit bigger, is legit. And again, with our hand, not much we can do. Folding is definitely a little bit too nitty. As you mentioned, he can still have some suited connectors like 6, 7, 8, 9. And if not, we still beat some hands like King, Queen, or King Jack suited that he could threat from time to time, especially against an unknown. Definitely too tight to consider. He only has like Queens, Kings, Aces, and to make this super nitty laydown. So, especially with a spade, I really like the call.
Yeah, yeah. I think without a spade, it's fairly close.
Yep,
Probably just folding actually without a spade, just given the position. But yeah, with a spade, we just have to continue.
agreed. Yeah, turn
Two
is
overs.
a brick, so we expect our opponent to slow down with his king jacks and king queens and 6-7. No, well, with 6-7 he's continuing because he picked up an open straight draw. And villain bets 275, and yeah, pot is 615. Yeah, do you think this is a small or a big bet? Because this always causes a lot of trouble in straight pots.
No, I mean I think it's pretty standard given the stack sizes, especially right because he has. If you go back there, he only has 500 left after this bet.
Yes,
So
correct.
if we call this, the SBR is going to be less than half, right? So this would be pretty standard, and I think you'll actually see a lot of smaller bets on this board. It's fairly dry. So yeah, this is totally standard. I would say this is normal, not big or not too small.
And what would you do on the turn? Call, fold, raise? I don't think we have too many options, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean it's just a pretty easy fold here. Even if you're playing against a whale, our hand is we're basically, I mean, we are at the very bottom of our range here. You know, this is like the worst hand we're going to call in the flop.
Yes.
And we have like jacks, queens, tens, all the 10x. We could even have some hands like ace four suited, 5-4 suited if we, if we choose to open those in a loose game. We have all the mid pocket pairs as well. We have flush draws, right? So this hand is just like very bottom of our range, and I'm definitely just pitching it here, especially because again he bets twice. He's going to have a very small bet on the river. I think he's going to rip the river super often here, So I would just really expect not to see a showdown a ton, and I'm just easily folding here.
Yeah, also for a villain, it's quite hard to show up with a ton of bluffs, because the board is so dry. Besides flush draws, there are not a lot of draws available when we don't think he's reading super light preflop. And even if he has bluffs, we have so many value hands. That's why I would also love to see a fold. And this is probably what Hero did, right? But he ended up making the shove. And I think this is just a huge blunder to move in here with ace queen against an unknown whale or whale in general. I mean, going for thin value, why not when you don't think you are ever folding river and he has some weird hands and you have a hand like, I don't know, a 10 or jacks and you want to get it in now because you don't think he's blasting off on the river. I get that, why not? Because we get stacked anyway when he has a stronger hand. But here with ace queen, I think he's rarely folding a better hand, right? Maybe he's folding once in a while ace king, but when he has a 10, do you expect your opponent to fold or a better hand?
No, I know. I don't see him folding much. Maybe flush draws, but we're ahead of all his flush draws except ace king. So yeah, I just don't see a point in shoving here. This is definitely not a spot to get out of line versus a whale. You can just play really straightforward here and just, like you say, shove your value, call down all the rest of your value, call down your draws, and it's just really ABC poker against these guys.
Yeah, I agree. We just punt a lot because a whale is not there to fold. Never expect your opponent to fold 10s, so 10x. And even when he's value betting like 9s, with 500 behind, they have such a hard time folding in-game. So you just print by value shoving and you don't print a lot by making those bluffs without additional informations. Because as you mentioned on the turn, when he bets 275, this is actually a good bet and a big bet. Even smaller is totally legit on this texture. So you can't read too much into his sizing and say, well, he only has king queen because he bets so small. This is just wrong because the SPR is so low and it's a 3-red pot. Remember, this is not a single raise pot, so please assign your opponent always the correct range. And of course, villain makes the call, so we drill the ace on the river, so probably now we have the best hand. And we don't. So as we can see, the turn shove was pointless because villain is not folding a single better hand when he calls ace king to our turn shove. And there you think why thinking in ranges is so important and to not put your opponent on the wrong range. What villain saved basically a ton of money, as you saw on this example.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so just play straightforward against whales. You can still put in bluffs, of course. But again, you want to pick spots where you think they actually have weaker hands, and you don't want to do it with a hand like this, which is actually ahead of their bluffs, right? So it just doesn't make too much sense. But it happens to us all, obviously. It's just a learning process. Unfortunately, this one got the painful news on the river, but yeah. So yeah, that was it for this hand, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, see you guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah.